Back then, sci-fi explored the unknown, not as a backdrop, but as the story itself. The mystery came first. The characters grew because they were facing something they didn't understand. Worlds felt lived in. Ships felt functional. Even the rough, low-budget CGI somehow felt more real than what we get now because it was grounded in intention rather than spectacle. Fast forward to today, and something went wrong. Modern space sci-fi looks more expensive, more polished, more realistic, and yet it feels completely fake. Characters talk like they're reading tweets instead of facing cosmic horror. Stories feel less like carefully built journeys and more like half-finished ideas stapled together with a message duct-taped on top. The unknown has been replaced with the predictable. Exploration has been swapped for lectures, wonder traded for noise. And the strangest part, with all the money, all the technology, all the tools these studios have now, the soul is gone. So today I want to talk about what sci-fi used to be, why shows like Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, and classic Star Trek understood space in a way modern sci-fi doesn't, and how franchises like Star Wars and Star Trek went from timeless myth-making to something almost unrecognizable. Here's the thing, old space sci-fi felt like space. When you watched shows like Stargate or Battlestar Galactica, there was always this sense that nobody fully knew what they were dealing with. The characters weren't the smartest people in the room at all times. They were explorers, soldiers, scientists, people thrown into situations way bigger than them, and the universe didn't care about their feelings. That's what made it interesting. You'd step through a Stargate and have no idea what kind of world you were about to land on. Some planets were beautiful, some were horrifying, some were morally uncomfortable. And the show didn't stop to explain how you were supposed to feel about it. It trusted you to figure that out yourself. The mystery was the hook. Now compare that to modern Star Wars shows. There's no mystery left. Everything is explained immediately, usually through dialogue that feels like it was written 5 minutes before shooting. Characters don't discover things anymore, they announce them. Instead of learning about the galaxy through actions and consequences, you get exposition dumps and awkward speeches that exist to push a point rather than move the story forward. And the characters, man. In older sci-fi, characters grew because they were under constant pressure. In Battlestar Galactica, people make terrible decisions because they're exhausted, scared, and running out of time. Leaders screw up, heroes crack, and when someone dies, it matters because humanity is hanging on by a thread. In modern Star Wars and modern Star Trek, characters feel finished the moment they walk on screen. They don't really change, they don't struggle in ways that last. Conflict shows up, gets resolved in the same episode, and then everyone moves on like nothing happened. It feels safe, too safe. Even Star Trek, a franchise built on patience, ideas, and quiet confidence, has turned into something almost unrecognizable. The old shows trusted the audience to sit with a problem, to think about it, to disagree with it. New Trek feels like it's terrified of silence. Everything has to be loud, fast, emotional, and spelled out. The bridge used to feel like a place where professionals worked. Now it feels like a stage where everyone is performing. And don't even get me started on the visuals. Old sci-fi had rough CGI, nobody denies that, but it felt grounded. Ships had weight. Battles felt chaotic, not pretty. Battlestar Galactica especially understood this. The shaky cameras, the limited views, the practical effects mixed with CGI, it made space feel dangerous. Modern sci-fi looks cleaner, sharper, more real, and somehow completely fake. Ships move like toys, cameras fly in impossible ways, explosions feel weightless. You can always feel the computer behind the image. Old CGI looked bad but believable. New CGI looks good but hollow. That's the part that hurts the most. With all the money, all the technology, all the talent available today, space sci-fi should be in its golden age. Instead, it feels smaller, safer, and weirdly insecure, like it doesn't trust its own worlds, its own characters, or its own audience. And once you notice that, it's hard to unsee it. And when you zoom out, the problem becomes even clearer. Modern space sci-fi doesn't feel like it's made by people who love the genre. It feels like it's made by committees that see sci-fi as a skin you can wrap around any story, any message, any trend, and call it a day. Take modern Star Wars again. This used to be a galaxy that felt ancient, mythic, worn down by history. You could feel the weight of generations in every ruin and every legend. Now it feels like content being produced in real time. Characters exist to set up other characters. Stories exist to set up other shows. Nothing is allowed to stand on its own because everything has to feed the machine. And because of that, nothing feels important. When something dramatic happens, you don't feel tension, you feel scheduling. You know it'll be undone, retconned, or explained away in the next series. Death doesn't mean much. Failure doesn't linger. The universe bends itself into knots to keep the brand moving forward. Modern Star Trek suffers from a similar issue. Old Trek believed in restraint. The drama came from ideas colliding, not from characters constantly yelling, crying, or delivering emotional monologues. It assumed the audience was smart enough to keep up. It treated space as a place to test humanity, not as a backdrop for personal drama dressed up in sci-fi visuals. Now it feels like the opposite. The sci-fi is just decoration. The ships, the uniforms, the planets, they're all there, but they don't mean anything. They're interchangeable. Strip away the Star Trek logo, and half these shows could be set anywhere. And that's the real loss here. Classic sci-fi understood that space isn't interesting because it's shiny or expensive. It's interesting because it's indifferent. It doesn't care who you are, what you believe, or what you want. You survive by adapting, by learning, by changing. That's why character growth felt real. That's why stories stuck with you. Modern sci-fi flips that around. The universe exists to validate the characters instead of challenge them. Problems appear only when the plot needs them and disappear the moment they become inconvenient. There's no sense of scale, no sense of danger, no sense that anything is truly at stake. Even the tone has shifted. Older shows had confidence. They didn't need to constantly remind you how important or progressive or relevant they were. They focused on telling a good story first and trusted the themes to emerge naturally. Modern shows feel anxious, like they're afraid of being misunderstood, so they overcorrect, over-explain, and overperform. And the end result is something that looks like sci-fi but doesn't feel like it. That's why people keep going back to Battlestar Galactica, Stargate, classic Star Trek, even decades later. Not because they're perfect, not because they're flawless, but because they treated the genre with respect. They believed space was worth exploring, not exploiting. Modern space sci-fi didn't become bad overnight. It slowly forgot why the genre mattered in the first place. And until it remembers that the unknown is the point, not the problem, it's going to keep feeling empty, no matter how good the CGI gets. Space sci-fi didn't lose its way because of budget problems. It didn't lose its way because technology moved too fast. And it definitely didn't lose its way because audiences changed. It lost its way because it stopped respecting the unknown. Classic sci-fi understood something simple but powerful. Space is not a mirror for our egos. It's a challenge. It's cold, vast, and uncaring. When humans step into it, they're supposed to be tested, not validated. That's where the best stories came from. That's why those shows still matter. Modern space sci-fi, especially in franchises like Star Wars and Star Trek, treats the universe like a stage prop. The galaxy exists to deliver dialogue, push messages, and set up the next project. Exploration has been replaced with explanation. Character growth has been replaced with instant competence. Wonder has been replaced with noise. And the saddest part is that the genre itself is still alive. You see it in older shows that people keep rediscovering. You see it in how often Battlestar Galactica gets praised years later. You see it in how fans still talk about classic Trek episodes, not because of how they looked, but because of what they made you think about. The hunger for real sci-fi never went away. Studios just stopped feeding it. Space should feel dangerous again. Stories should take risks again. Characters should be allowed to fail, change, and grow without the universe bending over backwards to protect them. Sci-fi works best when it trusts the audience and challenges the characters. Until modern space sci-fi remembers that the unknown is the whole point, it's going to keep looking expensive, sounding loud, and feeling empty. And maybe one day, someone will look at the current era of space sci-fi the way we look at forgotten spin-offs now. A strange detour, a moment where the genre forgot itself. Because space is still out there. Waiting.